Good morning, everyone. I thought I would start this morning with a little exercise, a little game. It's called the numbers game, count to 3. Jess and I are going to demo. All we've got to do, Jess, is count to 3 and we take it in turns to say the numbers. I'll start with 1,
2,
3,
1,
2,
3,
1,
2,
3.
1.
It's easy, but I nearly lost it there. So, with the person next to you in a pair, it only works with 2 people. So if you're in a 3, then one person gets to observe. Give that game a little try. Give that game a little try. You're just counting to 3, taking it in turns. Okay. It sounds like you managed to get it. You nailed it, guys. You did a great job. It's still very early. It's before the time that we should be counting.
I'm so confused.
If you're not confused already, strap in, because it's about to get a little bit more confusing. We're going to substitute the number 1 for a gesture. So we'll demo this. Number 1 is now going to be this. Can you do that? Yeah, great. Okay, so we both have the capacity to do the move. So I'll start the round. And then you would say 2 and 3.
Oh,
so we 3. 2.
3. 2.
3.
1.
The brain and the body are now in sync. The idea is that we change all of them. So give that a go in your pairs. Just substitute the number 1 for any kind of, it doesn't have to be this. It can be anything. It can be any gesture. Okay. Hysterics. Hysterics have swept the room already. Okay, we're going to move forward with this game. We'll move forward a little bit. And we're going to keep going. So now, in your pairs, substitute the number 2 for a different gesture. That's an example of a gesture. That's an example of a gesture. That's an example of a gesture. This is an example of a gesture. It can be as big as you want. So in your pairs, substitute the number 2 for a different gesture. Substitute the number 3 for a different gesture. And ideally, there's no more words being spoken, and you're just communicating and playing the game with your bodies. Ready to give it a try? All right. Just got to decide what your gestures are. All right. Put your hands in the air if saying the numbers was easier than doing the movement. So we got numbers easier. Hands in the air if the movement was easier than the numbers. Okay. We got some embodied people in the audience. Cool. That was just to bring us into our bodies, out of our heads. And as a community dance artist, there's nothing that brings me more joy than a room full of people dancing. So thank you for making my morning. You just made your own little duets there. So when people asked you, what did you do at the Creative Mornings? You said, oh, I danced a duet in a room full of people.
Front row.
When I was asked to do this talk, I can geek out on words and etymology sometimes, so I thought it's best to go straight into the definition. This was just a quick Google, and this is what came up. And dictionary is saying that nomad is a member of a people that travels from place to place to find fresh pasture for its animals and has no permanent home. So it was those 2 elements that I held on to as I was contemplating what to talk about this morning. The first one being finding fresh pasture, and the second one being having no fixed or no permanent home. And it made me think about my story and where I've come from to get to here. So I thought I would just share a little bit of my story. When Jess asked me to speak on this, she asked for story, experience and insight. So those are the 3 hooks that I held on to and I'm going to share with you today. So my story, I guess, in relation to nomad starts with ancestors, which came before me, and through my genealogy research, my ancestors moved a lot, whether it was a mile down the road or an hour down the road or to a different country or to a different side of the world. And anyone with Irish ancestors will know about the huge migration of Irish people across the globe. So I guess the story starts there. Then I was born in a place called Leeds in Yorkshire in the north of England to two mums, one of whom is Irish, and that was where my genealogy was accessible, through my Irish ancestry. So I kind of held on to that. And with these two mums, there was a big circle of socialist lesbians around them. So that's who raised me in the UK and kind of shaped my understanding of the world and human relationships, and I guess provided some sort of moral compass as I navigated through the world. And there was no father figure involved in that, which I think is an important part in my story, and we can touch on that a little bit later. We've spoke about that. Leeds is a very multicultural city. It's a little bit bigger, perhaps not geographically, than Toowoomba, but people, so a lot of the buildings are tall. Even in the suburban areas, you'll have like 3-story houses with a basement. That's what I grew up in. So a hugely multicultural city, which really influenced my outlook on the world. I was going to school with people whose parents had travelled, or who they had travelled from a different place to be where I had grown up for educational reasons and work and all the rest of it. I have a sister who's given me 2 nibblings, so I'm also an uncle, which is really nice. I guess my identity lands in Irish and English, and I'm now in Australia after coming here 10 years ago. I'm now back here making a home. We can go to the next slide, I think. So that's my story. Yeah, that's where I've gotten to. Oh, and we can skip past this. We can actually jump past this. Yeah, so my experience, I started working and I guess connecting to the idea of moving for fresh pasture just as I left university. So I started working as a dance artist, and the fresh pasture was auditions. The fresh pasture was grant applications. The fresh pasture was artist residencies. So I was traveling just in that little part of the world there, Europe, was traveling all around Europe because we were part of the European Union back then. All over around Europe, kind of searching for that fresh pasture, and it was seasonal. So in the performing arts, in festivals and theatres, the summertime is when all of the art happens, and we go out to festivals and we take that art to people. And the wintertime is when we are in the studios making the work. And the spring and autumn, we're probably on a laptop applying for some money or a residency somewhere. So there has always been a sort of seasonal element to the work that I've been doing. And then that quickly transferred into travel. So part of my dance work, I had created an autobiographical solo dance theatre piece, which I toured to Australia 11 years ago. So first time flew into Melbourne, cycled my bicycle to Sydney, and then took the train up to Brisbane, performed the solo, where I met my now partner, Jessie, who's in blue there. Give us a wave, Jessie. Where I met Jessie, and we went on a road trip. Jessie showed me a heap of the country, and then I went back to the UK to continue my dance therapy, my dance practice. We quickly formed a company called VIDA. So the VI stands for Visual Arts, and the DA stands for Dance. And over the last 10 years, we've been travelling to schools and theatres around the world, following this flight path, working as artists nomadically. And as you can see from here, that's where I'm from, LBA, that's Leeds Bradford Airport, where I fly from. This is Jeju, which is an island off the south of South Korea, which has been occupied by Japan quite a number of times, and has got a deep, deep history, and is a beautiful, beautiful place. If anybody ever gets a chance to go there, highly recommend. Here we are, down here, and all the way to the other side, we're in the Canary Islands there, specifically Lanzarote, which is a Spanish colonized island, but it's actually off the west coast of Morocco. So its indigenous peoples who were nomadic have deep roots on that island, and it's a dry, dry place. So that picture you showed of the desert and the camels relates to the time that we have spent in this part of the world. there has been a big movement of digital nomads, people who take their work and are able to move around the world. And I think that's probably how that word nomad has come, or is in most people's minds. But we weren't digital nomads, we were theatrical nomads. So we would be making work seasonally through these places over 10 years. In the middle of those 10 years, COVID hit. And so this nomadic identity that I had for myself and also for our work kind of collapsed. And so I didn't have to enter, I was forced to enter, as I'm sure most people in this room were, to reevaluate and reconsider priorities. I experienced the biggest bout of depression I have ever experienced, and my partner can attest to this, like the inability to get out of bed for maybe a year, maybe a little bit less. It took me a while to understand that a big part of that was grief. A big part of it was grief, allowing myself to grieve over this loss of identity of being a nomad and this huge privilege that I have had to follow this flight path for a decade. Not only grief, but also I reckon I was hell tired, right? Doing this for a decade, my body was like shut down. So there were two really important lessons in there for me about sustainable movement and sustainable pasture, and also just checking in, hey, rest and inner seasons. Nice. So a big reframe happened for me in that time. As I'm sure everyone has got their own little diamond of reframe that COVID blessed us with. Maybe we didn't see it in the moment, but in hindsight we do. And required me to reevaluate my sense of belonging, because belonging to this and numerous airline companies was not really a sustainable sense of belonging. So lots of pilgrimage was in that rediscovering of belonging, learning an instrument and learning songs of my ancestors and where I'm from was a huge part in shaping that, and also studying. So I went back to school, University of Auckland, and studied dance movement therapy. Next slide, please. So I studied dance movement therapy from New Zealand, and one of the reasons why I was keen to study from New Zealand is that the indigenous peoples there still have a huge presence woven into everything, and the Maori model of health is really vital in the way that I choose to see the world. I don't know if everyone can see. But you have these sort of 5 elements. So you've got the mental and emotional. I'm not going to try and pronounce the Maori language because I feel I wouldn't do it justice. No. Yes? Please. Okay.
No, I couldn't.
No? Oh, okay.
My mum, maybe from New Zealand, but my Maori abilities would be correct.
Well, I reckon most people here got the English. So mental and emotional. Whānau, yeah. Family and social, huge one. This is huge in dance therapy because we are never just working with an individual, we're working with that individual and their whole social sphere. And sometimes that means blood relatives and sometimes that means chosen relatives. And from a queer lens, chosen family is often more important than blood family in many scenarios. And sometimes those things are actually not important. You just have whānau and it doesn't ask any questions. It says, whoever your family is, bring them into the space because they're part of your well-being and your healing journey. Land, roots, totally essential. Where are we from? What land are we on? Who's been here before us? Who's going to be here after us? And what roots do I have access to that can ground me in my body, ground me in myself, and ground me in the world globally? Physical health, which I think the Western world understands to a certain degree, and then spiritual too, which is vital. And that can mean anything, whatever that means to the individual. We bring that into the session and we work with that. But these all have equal merit and equal value. And if we put too much focus on one thing, then you've got a really strong wall and then the roof collapses. So this has been really vital in helping me reframe my experience and moving forward with my life. As part of this work, dance therapy work in Toowoomba, I've done quite a bit of work with aged care here and with teens, and it's been fascinating for me to kind of see does Toowoomba have a need for dance therapy? Are there places and communities in Toowoomba where people are disconnected from their bodies, struggling in some particular way? Can I assist or help with that? And I think yes is the answer that I've found over the last few years. And so I'm really looking forward to where this dance therapy journey takes me here in Toowoomba. Next slide. How are we doing for time? 5, great. So as part of that reframe and that sense of belonging, acknowledging all the things I've said so far, this has been a really useful guide for me, this particular model here. This is actually an adaptation of a northern hemisphere. In fact, can we go back 2 slides? Because I want to talk about hemispheres, it's really important. This cycle, as you can see, crosses the equator. So hemisphere hopping does interesting things to the human body in terms of time zones this way, but also seasonally this way. So over that decade, I didn't see a tree drop its leaves and regrow its leaves in that whole 10 years. And that wasn't something that I had really considered until COVID, actually, when I was stuck in a place and looking out the window and going, the leaves are falling. The leaves are growing back. I haven't seen this in so long. How magnificent, how deeply and subtly important that was for me to feel alive and connected to nature, to be able to watch the seasons change. And hemisphere hopping didn't actually allow me to be connected to that cycle, which is interesting now when I move forwards into that reframe. We can jump forward 2 more slides. How important the circle of the year is in Celtic mentality and spirituality. And so this is a flip-flop. So all the words have kind of been spun 180. And it's a very rudimentary way of me using my ancestry and connecting to the land here to build on my well-being. Something that, because we can't just transfer the seasons from the UK here to Toowoomba, although I reckon we've got quite a few seasons here, and they are somewhat akin to the seasons I grew up with when I was in the UK, except a little bit hotter in the summer, and we don't get as much snow. This is where I'm coming from. And as part of the research for this, I was trying to find a local Wheel of the Year, and the closest I could find that matched our climate was Glen Innes down in New South Wales, because they're a bit high, a bit wet, yeah. This was the closest I could find. And to me, the circle is just such a fantastic symbol that encapsulates life, way more than squares and lines. But it's about documenting, really. Less about this ancient guide, and there will be ancient guides from Indigenous knowledge. But I think if anyone is wanting to deepen their connection to nature and connect with the cycle of the year, because then building your own Wheel of the Year will be great. And all you got to do is look out into your garden, make a little few notes, and then eventually, I'm working on one at the moment, which is loosely based off this, because I'm really keen on celebrating the Celtic festivals of the year. I think they're really useful, even if it's just lighting a candle, just to take a little bit of a moment to acknowledge the change in the season.
And is that you having spent so much time as a nomad, is that a way of you coming back to that Maori model of health, coming back into land, roots, ancestry, like a little bit of internal scaffolding for yourself as you have relocated to Toowoomba?
Huge, yeah, huge. That this is my internal scaffold, part of it anyway. And I think I mentioned this to you, but I've shifted. So I'm now wrapping up that cycle of the year, wrap that up. Me and my partner are building a home here in Toowoomba, building a community, building a life. And part of that reframe of identity from nomad into what I probably haven't made this up, I probably heard it somewhere else, but I'm liking defining this word homad. And I think it comes back to those two parts of the definition at the beginning. You've got finding a fresh pasture and having no permanent home. Well, I'm working on having the permanent home now. The citizenship? It feels like a citizenship sometimes, yeah. The citizenship application is pending, it's in there. So, you know, I'm working on that home and that sense of belonging. But the fresh pasture, I think that's the one that's actually really important. And fresh pasture, line of thought, where's it gone? Yeah, coming back to that as a home ad. So seasonally checking in with myself, checking in with my pasture. Is it fresh? Is it feeding me? Is it nutritious? And what is my pasture? Is it just work? There's a good book. Well, I don't know if it's a good book, but the author seems to think it's a good book.
And the publisher, I'm sure.
And the publisher, yeah, and Google, who have published a video of the author speaking on this book. It's called The 5 Types of Wealth. It's by a guy called Sahil Bloom. And he talks about the 5 types of wealth being time, people, purpose, health, and the last one, which is less important, money. And money is really just a facilitator for those first 4. Time, people, purpose, and health. Time is like your freedom, right? How much time do I have? How much time do I have?
A minute.
A minute. Time, people, purpose, health, great, money. 5 types of wealth. So when I'm reevaluating my pasture, maybe I have 5 internal pastures, and how are they doing? Are they fresh? Are they feeding me? Are they feeding each other? Is there a symbiosis between those 5 things? So, to close, Jess asked me when we were having some meetings beforehand, are there any other people in my life who embody Nomad or who I look to for inspiration? And there's a few sitting here. I want to honour Jennifer Summers, who's here, who I think now I'm less interested in Nomad because I'm exhausted of flying around the world, and I'm interested in Homad. Who are the people in my life who are connected to the seasons with the very fibre of their soul and their being? And Jennifer Summers is one of those people. And it's really, it comes down to anybody who has a garden. Put your hand up if you've got a garden. Yeah. If you've got houseplants. Yeah. So just connecting to nature in a way that brings their awareness to the seasons. And those are the people who I find inspirational and empowering. And so I want to jump to the next slide. I've got two readings that I wanted to leave people with. Here's a book called Anamkara by an author called John O'Donoghue, who's passed away. This book, I first read this book maybe 11 years ago, and it's just picked it back off the shelf recently because I was like, I need to quote John because he's been informative. So I'm going to read you this. To be natural is to be holy, but it's very difficult to be natural. To be natural is to be at home with your own nature. If you are outside of yourself, always reaching beyond yourself, you avoid the call of your own mystery. When you acknowledge the integrity of your solitude and settle into its mystery, your relationships with others take on a new warmth, adventure, and wonder. And I think the important word for me in that is solitude, and being able to sit in my garden, be with the trees, be with the birds, be with the rain and the sun and the moon and the stars, and simply be reminded that wherever I am in the world, nature's got me, Mother Nature's got me, and she'll hold me. And that's what I'm holding on to as I transition from Nomad into Homad. And final slide, I'm going to hand back over to Jess, who I've invited to do a little reading here.
Come sit by my garden, a song by Emery Hall. Let my gardens speak for me when I am gone. Let them speak in coloured whispers of all the beauty I have seen and felt and lived. Let them speak of how much death had to find me, how many hard seasons it took to make me a living, breathing thing. Let them speak of my seasons of growth and abundance, but let them also tell of my seasons of loss and decay. Let the soft, wet earth be a reminder of hardness that didn't win, of sadness that didn't calcify, of surrender that triumphed over resistance, and let the glorious, fragrant blooms speak of my life and its greatest lesson, that the beauty we make never dies. Come sit by my garden. Thank you, Connor.
Thanks, Jess.
That was beautiful. beautiful.
Who thought that was a beautiful, moving?
Thanks.
Very special.
And this concept of moving to green pastures, or acknowledging like the state of our pasture right now, how nourished we are, how resourced we are, whether we're being fed or whether we're drinking from a dry well. I think that is such an important consideration for us now. Like, how are your pastures? Are they green? Are they dry? What do you need to sustain and nourish yourself? Thank you so much.
So
Beautiful.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'd love to hear a bit more about your dance therapy, like where you're doing that, like how's it going? Are you doing it in schools or is it pop-up sessions?
Yeah, so I mainly work with groups because I find that the social element's really important, and from those groups, it's easy to identify if one-on-one work is more beneficial. But I would usually start with a group, and whatever the thing is that brings that group together, that's my work to do. That's my research to know and to inform myself. Aged care is a really important one, and young people, yeah. So I actually have one of my clients here in the audience. Demonstrating. And I mean, I say client, but probably more of a teacher, really. Yeah, so working with children is a great one. Children and teens. I've worked in education my whole life, so but never as a teacher, because I always, growing up as a kid in school, teachers were great and helped me to pass my lessons, but it was those adults who weren't grading me, those adults who weren't assessing me, that I always found to be the ones I was drawn to. And so I'm now trying to be that person in education where I'm not here to grade any students. I'm here to facilitate some movement, to have some fun, get creative. So yeah, in schools with young people, teens, and elders too. And I'm also opening up sessions for adults, just general neurotypical adults.
The normies.
The normies, yeah. Any normies in the house? Probably not. Thanks for your question.
Thank you. All right, everyone.